Hello, and welcome to a different kind of video than we normally get from the USL show. This is a short segment from our live watch along that we did on Friday, where we watched North Carolina versus Orange County. And this is a short segment where USL legend and backyard footy founder Hugh Roberts joined us. A little bit of our old friend Evan was involved in the chat. It was me, Ryan. John was in early. So if you want to see the entire VOD, just kind of video on demand, it is there on our YouTube channel. If you want to watch the full 2.5 hours, it is seriously awesome. The conversation is fun. It's different than what we normally do, but I don't want to take up too much of your time because you're here to listen to USL legend Hugh Roberts. Let's get into it. Hey, Evan, I hate to cut you off, but I want to name a player just to kind of
Please.
have a conversation. What about at one point the highest ever or the most appearances ever, absolute just legend of this league and dear friend of yours, Hugh Roberts II. Welcome, Evan. How are you?
Oh, is that my good friend? Oh man, I was about to say, and I'll still say it because I think it's true, and I've said this to him many times. But Hugh, as a player, is the mold for what center backs were when he played, and then as a human being, probably one of the most giving people I think I've ever met in my life. Full stop.
I appreciate that, my guy.
Anytime, my friend.
No, I'm trying to follow your footsteps.
That is some bullshit. I think I actually never lied to me again. Now, what I will say, and I actually remembered this the other night because I was like, oh, like we're gonna chop it up again. I think I might have been one of the first people to do like a series of podcasts with Hugh when he was starting out Backyard Footy.
Yep.
I'm just saying that because I know it's true. I just didn't want to be cocky about it.
Yep.
He posted a clip of me removing glasses that I thought I was wearing, but I was not, on an Instagram story to immediately punk me out and make me look more uncool than I already am. And I have still not forgotten about it, but it's all good.
If you scroll down all the way to the bottom of my page,
don't do that. Nope. Nope.
It's still there. It's still there.
That is poison. It's still there. That is evil work, my friend.
You know, I gotta show the origins.
Oh man, Hugh, you spent so long in this league. When I messaged you earlier, you said you were coaching. How long have you been? Obviously, a lot of players coach while they're playing. How long have you been coaching?
Yeah, honestly, since my rookie year, 2014, I can go back to my first year was literally 8th grade. I was too tall to even play in these camps, so they made me coach. I could have played in the league, but they wanted to force me to be a coach. So, but really, since Richmond Kickers, I was the U13 head coach there, and then when I moved to Charlotte, I was U13 boys for the Charlotte Eagles. Now it's just more so individual training, but I stay active with it.
Well, and that was always funny for me because there was a lot of the like bench guys or like second or third choice goalkeepers that like your side hustle to like make a living back in the day you were doing camps. And especially if you were part of that like Jersey triad with like Vermees or like you went to Ryder or like whatever. I'm getting like really deep into it. You did that. Like that was basically like your off-season income.
Right, exactly. I had to coach at that time. There's no minimum wage.
Right.
I mean, being transparent, it's like $300 a month or every 2 weeks kind of thing. So if I didn't coach, I wouldn't even be here. But you know, you got the free house and stuff, and they try to get away with those things too. So,
and
how you guys doing though? How's the show? I'm always following you guys. You guys are doing good things.
They took it over. I retired because I couldn't live in a world where a bunch of my friends became coaches and won championships. Especially not the ones that I thought were going to, but you know. So yeah, they've done a lot more with it than I ever could for a litany of reasons. Also, everyone got old, like had kids, so you know that kind of puts a damper on the free time.
Please, trust me.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, things have been great. It's been fun to kind of grow and evolve the show. We obviously I think it was last year, 2 years ago, we did our fundraiser kit for backyard footy.
Yes, sir.
We did that a few years ago, and we've been doing more stuff like that, just trying to get more involved with the community because like it's been so much fun to make connections with people around this
mhm,
league.
Yeah.
I
mhm.
think I think there's so many great soccer stories that just go untold, and I think that that's been one of the biggest joys that I've had doing this show.
That's why I keep doing my show too as well, man.
Mhm.
Get in contact with these players more. You guys get a connection more too. It's important. I see that still.
Well, it's
And
it's just funny because seeing it from sorry Ryan, but like seeing like getting to know like especially when you're Kaylor, you probably have. I mean, both of you guys probably have like similar sort of stories where it's like, okay, you start out in your first couple of years, you're very like, yeah, like the organization, and then you start talking to guys more like me and Hugh, and then off season just turned into okay, like I hope all these guys that I like as people are like getting the bag somewhere.
Yes.
yes,
Like as long as everyone has a contract or whatever, like I don't really care where they are. If they're happy, great. But like as long as we're all like getting money and like still doing what we want to do, like we're good.
Right.
But it's just so funny, like especially at this level, especially back then, it was like no, these are like just real people that have stories to tell. It's just no one's there to do it. Um, and Hugh, especially with being a player and not a fraud like me, you could really just go like, "Hey, let's just talk about it and sit down with these guys and really kind of, you know, humanize the game." I guess.
Exactly.
Ryan,
You
you
gonna
have
say
some?
something, Ryan?
yeah, of course. I mean, Hugh, you've been in USL a long time. I guess from a player's perspective, what would you
Old.
say has been like just the just biggest change that you've seen kind of within the changing landscape of USL?
Yeah. Well, one exciting thing this year is the Jägermeister tournament is finally between both leagues, so then you can finally have the bragging rights of who's the best
Hmm.
team now. You know what I mean? Because everyone League One player aspires to do that. But I would say one of the coolest things now that the minimum wage is here, the CBA, I see a lot of young players hop into the league now for going college.
Hmm.
I'm not saying they should as well too, because I still advise some if you have a top college in comparison to maybe a League One or a championship, maybe go out and take your opportunity. But a
Hmm.
lot of players, which is needed because we got to compete with Europe and do kind of the European style. You got to come in when you're a teenager now. So providing more stability, giving more opportunities. Not every team is playing these young players, but a lot of clubs are now, and I'd love to see it. And as long as you can perform and hang in there, you can hang in there. 17-year-old, 18-year-olds are playing now. So I love to see that because it's going to grow the USL. Eventually, you're going to have some superstars to make the national team. We already seen some as well. And that's going to grow the league again, or maybe, I mean, some players already going to Europe, but more players going to Europe and sign for big deals. So it's going to help the league a lot, and I can see that.
What's the tipping point? Do we think for how young is too young? Because I mean, we have all these like. Obviously, everyone goes back to Freddie Adu, where it's that dude wasn't ready for what that was going to be for him, right? That's a terrible story. But now you have sort of these Kevin Sullivan's, your Brandon Vasquez even he was making a lot of headway and moved a lot of places, and it's tough, man, because there's a balance there. It's like I watched Forrest Lasso body kids like 2 weeks before their prom. Like,
Right.
like, and it's like, is that good? I guess I don't know,
I,
but it's always just like weird. And I'm not one to stand here and be like, oh, moral high ground, but it's just tough because to be able to get to the level that Hugh got to, or that any of the guys that are in any professional level of soccer, even the indoor stuff or whatever, like you have to sacrifice a lot of yourself to get there.
Yeah.
And
I
it's what's the trade off?
I think personally, when we look a couple years ago, I think it is now when Sacramento signed that 14-year-old, he
Yep.
got
yeah.
good publicity, but you don't really see him playing. I haven't really seen him on the bench. I haven't really seen him.
Right.
So for me, that's not a bad thing, but is the kid going to get an opportunity to still play and develop and like help him out, not just sign a pro contract just to say he's a pro and look good for the other youth players?
And get clicks, and then for the academy to just try to get more kids in the academy to for the pipeline. Yeah.
Lamine Yamal, of course, is 16 playing on the highest level, but it's good. I know very good 16-year-olds. I've trained with the academy even when I was my young rookie years, DC United, Philly young players like Brendan Harrison was 15 years old playing with the Steel at the time. So they can do it as long as you have a good, and he had a good trajectory. Boom, national team Europe. You see it. He's going back to the first division and he's playing. So you can do it with a good structure. I just think sometimes when there isn't the proper structure around it, it can be a little too much just, for the structure of the kid more so.
I mean, there's different ways they can kind of slice up. You're talking about Davion Kimbrough. Was the signed at like 14 years old, got maybe 2-3 minutes the year he signed. You saw the game that we're watching now, which is the North Carolina versus Orange County.
Yeah.
Bryce Jamison was playing a little bit for the senior squad, but he was playing for the academy. He would go down to the USL Academy League, and he was getting hat tricks all the time because he was frankly way too good for the academy system. And he was in an awkward place. Is he ready for men's football? Maybe, maybe not, but he's definitely way too good for kids football. He's not learning anything. There's also guys like I had my own club with Birmingham, Rami Zamuda, where you bring him in 15 years old, and they played him at left back because he's a center back by trade, but they didn't want him to go body for body against grown men. Let him get some pace, get used to the pace, don't get as used to the physicality. He's grown up after a year or two, and he looks like a grown man despite being 16 years old.
Right.
I think it just kind of depends on who you are. I feel like maybe your strikers can, or maybe your outside players can do it a little bit younger because you're not as in many big collisions. But like if you're someone like you played center back, could you imagine stepping up as a 14-year-old in men's league doing that as a center back?
Right. And that's what I'm saying too, exactly with the experience. Throw them in with the fire with training all the time. Like you said, there's young players that can handle that. I know some center backs, even the one that was when Loudon went to DC United. I think he's on Europe overseas now too. He was playing at a young age. If you're 6'4", 200 pounds, you're up there, you can compete, hold your own, no problem too. But definitely a 14-year-old, there's definitely a big difference with that too. So yeah, setting these players up for success is a big thing that I'm, just trying to educate players on as well. So I use my podcast and stuff too. But that's what I like to see in this league, and I love to see that it's growing. I hope USL League One is a good thing as well too, and starts that promotion relegation that's needed within the league.
Yeah, as I'm about to switch over back to the North Carolina match. Yep. Hugh, there was a younger player that you played with that I wanted to ask about when you were with Charlotte, and that was Omar Sis. Dude is one of my favorite players in the league. What was he like to just be a teammate with?
Yeah, he's a good, humble, funny kid, but he works hard every day too. I like him. He's very crafty. Still young as well. I hope he gets this opportunity in the championship. But yeah, I liked him as well. The good engine. Unfortunate to get a couple of injuries last year when I was playing with him, but normally he's a stalwart playing every minute. But I loved his craftiness. It reminds me of I don't know if y'all remember like Asante and Owusu back with the Richmond Kickers. Young players like. Omar's taller, but same way with the twinkle toes, getting out of situations, being crafty like that.
Gotcha. I don't feel like maybe I did, maybe I didn't. This is such a random thing. Legion played Monterey Bay 2 years ago, and you were starting that match, and I was on the field doing film and stuff. And I think that you were the first player that I had ever actually been starstruck by on the field. I just been watching you for so long and never had a chance to be that close. I was so just starstruck by just being around. It was so wild. You were the first and I think only player to really do that to me. It was weird.
It's an honor, man. I appreciate you telling me that. It meant a lot. It was when we were at Birmingham, right? I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good game, man. I appreciate that. Hope to see you again sometime soon, so we can chop
Yeah.
it up, hop on the show in person, and do everything.
Yeah, hey, let's do it whenever we get a chance.
Yep.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you mentioned being in Charlotte. Like, I currently live in Charlotte myself as
Oh,
well,
okay.
so I'm at least in the kind of North Carolina vicinity
Let's
here.
do it. Let's do it. You have your own studio here, or what are you doing? Just at the place?
I'm just in my apartment. I have the scarves and everything behind me. This is just my bedroom, about 2 miles away from Bank of America Stadium.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice. Yeah. There's the one I use at the Hyge studios. Hyge. I don't know how you pronounce it. Hyggge. Those studios over there. You can rent them out for an hour for $20. So I'm down to. Well, Courtney, I'll give you my contact after this.
Absolutely.
let's do it. I have a couple, just a few obviously a few more questions for you, Hugh, as like we're still watching, going through everything. Um, we're looking at League One right now. When you played for Richmond, they were not a League One team. They were the USL Pro, which is still Division III semantics because American soccer and all. They're averaging like a packed house every single night. What was that atmosphere like as a player to be in?
Yeah, that was the same thing when I was there. It was amazing. Um, they actually had their own chant for me too, which was a blessing to the last year. That's just how you know they're passionate. I think. See, the Kickers do a great job connecting with the community, so it starts with that, and that's why the fans love it. Back when I was there, I don't know if it's the same now, but after every single game, you had to go to the bar and meet the supporters and meet the fans. Mandatory. Even if you're only there for 10, 15 minutes, coach would be there, maybe even fine you or put you tardy if you didn't show up, kind of thing. Like we went there, shook hands with almost every fan, supporters who showed up to the game, and then around the 80th minute, they'd also put it on this the game time announcements like head over to this pub where the players are going to be, meet the players, and we're meeting kids and everybody too. So fans can feel that, the community felt that, and they always show love. And then we were also, a pretty good team as well too. Top two, top three, 25 unbeaten streak my first year and the last year as well too. So when you bring success to the organization and the fans are connected too. Yeah, it was great, man. The song that they sung for me, the Amarion song, "Oh Baby You Got What I Need." They say, "Oh baby Hugh, you got what I need." You say he just offends. You say he just offends. It was love.
That's awesome.
So it makes you want to come back. So I was there for 3 years. It makes you want to stay there, and you see players staying there over time too.
And that's just been like, I think one of the really good things about USL, that it really feels like you can connect with a lot of the players, like almost as a fan on a personal level. I remember when the Wilmington Hammerheads were still my hometown team at the time, that I would see those players like at the Chipotle in Wilmington. I would just see them out and about in town, and it would just be like, yeah, I know these people kind of on a personal level, and like seeing them out on the match and seeing them out on the pitch is just like another step to that. But like, I really feel like USL has done a really good job at connecting those players to the fan bases, to the supporters group, to appearing on podcasts like this, or like this one, and like other supporters groups as well.
That's probably the difference between the MLS and USL. USL more homegrown, more connected with the players. Everyone feels that. MLS is, it's just not how it is in the major leagues too. But that's probably the difference that separates us as well.
So whenever you kind of have these connections, it's so funny because your relationship with yourself, you'd probably just see yourself as just a guy, right? And all the fans, like, they see you as professional athlete, superhuman. You're our hero. You're awesome. And to have that relationship where players and world fans start to get to know you, is that something that you feel like you're almost two different people, if that makes sense?
And then it makes sense, but who I am, I try to stay the same always. I will say though, like I mentioned before in Richmond, it was great. It can be just a little different in certain environments too. Like when I was, on the West Coast living at the time, the fact that some people can be a little too touched when they can find out where you live and get a little too personal and might, track you down a little bit as a player. It's fine too because it's a USL, nothing safety wise, but that can just, there's other sides of things as well too that of course you don't really see as well, but I experienced some of that as well too off the field, just living in certain cities and stuff too. It's cool. It's always love, trust, but I know a lot of players stay low key for that reason too. You don't really see them out and about too much, just because you can track us pretty easily and get to know our personal well-beings, you know.
For sure. Did you play with Brandon Miller, by the way?
Yep, 3 years.
Okay. Where did you play with him? Like what stops?
Charlotte.
Charlotte. Okay. I couldn't remember if you guys had overlap with Lily or not. If you guys played together with Lily or not. Because you were at Pittsburgh at one point,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I was in 18, but no, not together. He was
Okay.
there in Rochester years when I was in Richmond. So when I think they won it there too, I was in Richmond. We played against each other then.
So we had to ask Brandon about playing for Lily. We talked about it earlier about MLS teams and MLS fans especially getting their first indoctrination of Lily ball and just like being a center back or like being so defensively sound, like they couldn't create anything with New York City and all the fans were furious. Like, how could we not score against the USL team? It's like you got Lily balled. A two-pronged question. What makes him different as making the defense as perfect as it always is? Because he just seems to have the formula. And second, what is your best Lily story that you have?
All right. I would say
That you're allowed to share.
he holds everybody accountable for sure. He remembers, he's a great memory, like almost like on LeBron's level, where every single mistake that a player has, like every player he subbed on, started, he remembers every mistake you did. And after every game, you're going to hear from that. And no one's safe, even if maybe Canardo was the only one that was safe. Even if you're starting 4 games in a row, team of the week, 2 weeks in a row, he's gonna bench you just to let you know who's, you know what I'm saying? And it's cool. You got to bite your tongue in those situations, but it also makes sure, you know, every single training you're doing your thing, you're balling and performing, because he doesn't want anyone to slack off. And you don't want to be caught out in film. He's gonna hold you at training and at games just to make sure you don't forget what happened. A good story, I would say we play Atlanta United 2. This is back when they're in the USL. And we're, I think, 1-0, and they probably tied in the last minute. We stayed on that field we never left the field probably for another hour and a half, 2 hours, to the point where they shut off the lights on the field. And the grounds crew came up to us on the field and said, "Hey, coach, can you mind going inside and taking your speech in the locker room?" So didn't even go to the locker room, hopped on the bus, got to the hotel. We all walk out the bus, another hour and a half, 2 hours of holding everyone accountable right outside the hotel until probably about midnight. And we had to leave at like 5 o'clock in the morning the next morning. Didn't matter. But like I said, and he remembers everything. He's going around and making sure everybody remembers that he knows, and you don't forget what you did in that game.
I'm so glad actually you mentioned the Atlanta United 2 story, because we talked to the people at Soccer Down Here, which has like Launchu and a bunch of other guys who do the play-by-play for Atlanta United 2. And that story has been told to me by the Atlanta United commentators multiple times.
Wow.
Like they were heading out to their vehicles to leave, and you guys were still on the field, and they just went up to the gate just to watch you guys get yelled at.
That is hilarious to hear another perspective on that. Man. And I think it might even started raining too. Like it was the whole thing. But I mean, he has success, and you know, especially playing at Highmark. Highmark is no joke. Highmark, shout out to those fans too. They really do their thing out there, and you can feel the intensity every time you go there. And the views, maybe a little bit smaller compared to the other stadiums too. So he really knows how to perform on that field too.
You've played. Oh, sorry, Ryan. Were you going to say something?
No, it was just like I've like it's almost become so much of a meme. Like I've put like Bob Lilly in Football Manager like into other different clubs to see how he would perform. Like I've put him in charge of Liverpool and he's guided Liverpool to a Europa League title. So it's just really cool to hear a perspective of a player who's played under Bob Lilly and just the experience that you had there as well.
Yep. Appreciate that.
So someone who has, I mean, you've gone, it seems like everywhere. I mean, you went through Richmond, you went through Bethlehem Steel, you've been through Pittsburgh, Charlotte twice, and then Monterey. Just kind of going from clubhouse to clubhouse. The one thing that I've had one player describe the USL as quote unquote incestuous, and how much just players just get traded and just all end up being in the same place. Is it easy to go into new locker rooms because the USL stays within its own so much, or is it still difficult to find your way in those places?
Yeah, that's a good question. Everyone knows someone on a new team for sure. So it's good to have a known face and a familiar face. But I would say definitely every locker room is different, every culture is different. So don't you might have that relationship with someone, but that doesn't mean your relationship with that coach. Like say I go into a new club and I know a teammate there, he might already be situated and sort of I still have to make a name for myself. The coach might not be favoring me. So like, yes, me and the boy are cool, but he can't really do much on my defense like that. I still have to prove myself. So and then you have to your friend can get you updated on the coach or who so is like, don't do this, don't the coach don't like this, and that's great pointers, but you still have to experience certain things yourself because you're a different player too. So yeah, a little bit of both, but I would say every locker room is definitely different, mostly because the managers.
Just wondering, are you watching the North Carolina Orange County?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this what have you kind of seen between these two teams as we're about an hour in? I know you missed a little bit because you were coaching, but it the Orange County's come out kind of trying some new systems. North Carolina has kind of had some chances, but hasn't been able to break down this Orange County defense in the second half. What are you kind of seeing as a player and coach?
Yeah, I like Orange County's willingness to play no matter what, even though North Carolina's been pressing. And I think North Carolina did have the better of the ball in the first half a little bit, but they weren't really dangerous. Orange County, I would say, was probably the more dangerous team. But good for NCFC capitalizing on that good counterattack in their probably best opportunity of the half. I would still say Orange County's probably been a little bit more dominant on the ball and just a little bit more braver in taking their opportunities. It's also good to see some League One players out there making a name for themselves starting in the championship because you don't know, but it's really not that far off for every player. Even the jump from MLS to USL Championship, there's still quality players in MLS or in the USL Championship that can still make the leap. So it's just a lot, there's politics and everything too. So it's good to see that. But yeah, I would say, I guess for me, it's just interesting that NCFC changes their lineup a good bit, especially the center back core and the back line. Normally, where I'm coming from is from other clubs, you kind of keep the back line intact. And he has experience with Donovan and Craig, but they really haven't played together a lot. And he's been swapping them back and forth and swapping the armband back and forth between them. So it's just interesting. I'm glad things are working out still. But yeah, so it's good to see Orange County still at least sticking to their principles, even though on the road traveling from the West Coast is never easy. But yeah, they're sticking to their morals, and I like the way they play.
Ryan had actually mentioned it earlier about going West Coast, East Coast, East Coast, West Coast. You've had experience with both. Which is more difficult, going West Coast to East Coast or East Coast to West Coast to play?
I would say probably to East Coast. If I'm living, the West Coast teams coming to the East Coast because of the time difference. And sure, you go back when you come from the East to the West, but you could just you lost 3 hours, so you can get that back a little more, sleep in a little bit later. I would say when you're traveling from the West, and it's all about the time frame that you leave as well too. A lot of clubs aren't really covering flights 2 days before still, so you're flying the night before, and that's very tough. Most ones who do have good budget, like San Diego when they're in the league, and I was in Monterey, I think we beat them or tied them before, and so they came to us 2 days before the game prepared, and they came through and beat us in the 94th minute, 3-2 kind of thing. And it just speaks to. I mean, that was San Diego, but Louisville came over early, sorry as well too, and I think even beat us 2-1. Not one of our first games of the season, just because they came 2 or 3 days early. Like those little things matter for players too. I would just say, yeah, it's definitely a little tougher for the West Coast teams going to the East.
Yeah, it's interesting because for tomorrow, Monterey Bay are traveling to Rhode Island, and they're playing at a 4 p.m. Eastern time zone start, which is relatively early for the Western Conference team, making the trip to arguably the furthest road trip in USL Championship.
Right. That's very interesting. I just hope they traveled in Thursday because it's
I mean,
you fly in normally if it's the night before, you don't really get into the hotel till like 7. No matter what, every team, if it's the night before, dinner, and the game's at 4, got to be there 2:30. You just have brunch and you're ready to go. So that's a good turnaround. I hope they got some travel time in there. But
to
yeah,
Monterey Bay's benefit, they did have Rhode Island playing. I think they played 90 minutes midweek, so like Monterey Bay had been fully rested here. Rhode Island had their match against New England in the Open Cup, so there could be some tired legs playing a role in that.
Yep, that's true too. That's true too. I forgot about the Open Cup as well. Yep. So we'll see.
Yep.
I'm
They
meeting into
also
that game too.
Yep.
Go ahead.
They also have a match midweek coming up as they come down to Birmingham as well. So Rhode Island's in the middle of a three games in 1 week stretch. So if there's any time if you're Monterey Bay to make essentially a 1 p.m. start as opposed to 4 p.m., this probably is the week to do it.
Right. That's very true. They need to bounce back too.
Good Lord, looking at Rhode Island's future schedule, they don't get a break until the middle of August.
Oh, that's tough.
Man.
I mean, best of luck to a friend of the show, Connor Smith, for coaching that team through that period.
Right.
No kidding. Hugh, speaking, want to take a little bit of time. We've talked about it a few times of backyard footy. Can you give the people just a little bit of insight on what that is?
Yeah, so it's a company I founded in 2018 when I was in Pittsburgh. Started as a podcast. Knew about one player on every team. So when they came in town, I interviewed them. And then when I went to Charlotte, found a videographer, photographer, kind of was like, let me show them more behind the scenes. COVID happened. Started our first foundation nonprofit called Footy's Got You Foundation, giving food back to the homeless. We do that in California and here in Charlotte still. Then grew the company to more of an entertainment company. Now our niche is storytelling, still doing the podcast, but still doing more so documentaries for players, showing more behind the scenes, like day in the life kind of things too. But yeah, man. So now, TST's around, so we're partnered with Drip FC for TST, doing media for them.
Very nice.
Really pushing the media side of things. My niche, I said, is storytelling. I'm a player, so I kind of separate myself from other brands because I can ask specific questions, get them to open up more and, know kind of what people want to hear too in terms of questions from players. So my company's been working with some companies here in Charlotte that's giving me access to Charlotte FC players. I interviewed Brent Bronico, interviewed another MLS Next player who's going to be a homegrown player for FC next year too. So trying to just, capitalize on the media out here. Will be at TST, like I said. So hopefully maybe even Nani kind of thing, but you never know. But definitely in preparation to keep producing some media and show more behind the scenes. We'd love to work with some USL clubs eventually, show what players are doing. Like, sure, there's good media teams out there, but I can tell you just from my perspective that I think a lot of clubs could do more, and I can just help them out. And I just know from a player's perspective, we want a little more. Just individuality too. Like players want specific content for them. A little, of course, clubs can't do that, so we can come in too. So, yeah, it's been good. Doing it by myself a lot. Met some good guys as well too. Been helping me out. And we're gonna continue to grow.
You talked to one of my favorite personalities in the USL, Sam Gleadle, about a month or two ago. I watched that one when it came out. Sam is just one of the just great humans of the USL. There's a lot of great ones, but Sam is awesome. That was an instant click for me for sure. If you're someone who's in our live chat, we've posted the YouTube channel link for Backyard Footy. It's some great stuff. I don't miss an upload. It's awesome.
I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely gonna be doing a lot more of that too. Now that I have some more free time, definitely gonna be tapping into a lot more championship players. Got some exciting guests on the way too. These are kind of more just warming up, getting my groove back. Main focus right now, TST's coming up in like 3 weeks, so focusing on that coming up, and then after that, be full on with the USL Championship. Got some fun things with Drip FC coming up too. We went up to Raleigh, did some things with Ezra Armstrong, like a little documentary thing. So that'll be cool. People, I see your guys' reactions. Like people want to see these things. Like trust me. So I've known this since I was in 2018, but it's really tough being a player doing these things because you're focused on your season and got to do content. And I'm also somebody who's not really trying to be in front of the camera. So if we're losing, not in a good streak, I'm not going to be, putting a podcast out. So your season dictates, the content and things that you do as well too, and question you ask players. So those things matter. I lived and I learned all that, and so now that I got that groove, yeah, definitely be pushing out a lot more.
You mentioned Ezra, by the way. Sorry, Ryan, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think he's the most underrated player in the league. He is so good at what he does at that wingback spot, and I know he got second team All USL, but he was easily the best wingback in the league last year. I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, he did his thing. Is he starting tonight? I'm not too sure.
No, he didn't. He's not starting tonight.
Still, right? He's been injured for some time now.
Yeah.
But with NCFC, how they love to play in that big field, he really shined last year, and I'm hoping he gets a good amount of time this year.
Ryan, you have something?
Yeah, so as USL kind of moves towards this moving into Pro Rel, I think by 2028, over the next 3 years, Hugh, what does the league have to do to make this a more kind of player-friendly league to kind of like have players benefit from the Pro Rel kind of standpoint, and where does the CBA fit into this kind of Pro Rel landscape?
Yeah, I think they really have to still take care of their players a lot more. And I know you guys don't know all the nuances, but there's still a lot of clubs who take the cheap route, no lunches, 5 hours before kickoff, night before games, getting off a plane, going straight to trainings. You're pulling muscles, not having proper training equipment, trainers as well. Like, if we're going to take these things seriously, we got to invest into the players seriously. Don't get me wrong, there's top clubs who have the money, they're doing their thing. That's why they're always, I don't have to say their names, that's why they're always at the top. But not everybody's doing that's like the small percentage of the clubs. Majority are still getting by, and players, even mid-table teams, players are still upset about this. And I'm on the players union still, and I'm hearing their calls and hearing their frustrations as well. And that was just last week kind of thing. So you get what you put in and everything, right? You invest more in the players. I promise you the quality is going to go up, the results going to go up, even your money's going to go up, even fans going to be more excited. But, if you don't, you're going to see kind of the other spiral effect where players aren't going to be as invested. The losing starts happening, the injury starts happening, and fans are upset. And you see that in certain clubs too, year in and year out.
I mean, you mentioned just like certain clubs not taking care of their people. I mean, we saw a top club in the East right now with Loudon just make headlines for the same exact reason, right? I mean, when you make enough contacts around the league, you hear these stories more often than you'd like. It's gotten better. Don't get me wrong. The CBA has fixed a lot, or at least band-aided a lot, but it's still not where it needs to be. If you're thinking, and obviously you say you're part of the players union, so answer what you can, of course. But for you, what would you want as a player to say this is something I will agree to? Because this is a little known fact, and I've tried to say this a lot on whenever we talk about Pro Rel. The league has to get an agreement from the player because this is a change in the workplace environment. The players have to sign off. This is not like it's happening whether the players like it or not. It's kind of the other way around, that if the players don't sign off, there's no Pro Rel. That's just the fact of the matter. For you, what would be your number one thing that you'd want to see as a player for you to say, okay, I'm willing to make this next step?
Next step, I mean, joining that club?
Or join the club, or like make that next step of, yeah, we're willing to do the Pro Rel thing because.
Okay. I mean, obviously the player's going to talk about salary from the jump, but A lot of little things, man. Like if we're gonna be serious with this Division One, like 401k, insurance. We don't got a lot of that. I mean, you can structure it now with the CBA, but over 50% of players don't have health insurance, and that's been going. I've never had health insurance. I had to provide for my own self, kind of thing. You have workers' comp, but that really isn't anything. Those kind of things, if you want some equity, even some stock, we'll get into all that. But more like the benefit wise, for sure, salary's going to increase, but 12-month contracts going to be the minimum. That's still 10 months right now, and those 2 months in the off seasons are a killer, and not just for a player that's coming back for the following year, even for the players that you're recruiting that come to your team. It's like you want this player to be healthy in the offseason, getting ready, training properly, not having to work a job where he's distracted and he can't train in the offseason and get ready for you. And then he comes in and he's only half the way he's supposed to be, and then he takes a whole month to get ready. Make sure he's good in the offseason. I promise, like any other job, we don't have to worry about getting a job and fending for ourselves. We can focus on our craft and get better for you in the offseason, and then we're going to provide more quality for you in the season. So I'm not gonna say salary is secondary for me, but salary is a little bit on the back end where I want, and players are gonna want, all the benefits as well. Like a lot of players retire just because it's not worth dealing with all this stuff for years, not having its benefit, not having proper salaries to provide for your family. Like minimum wage, we have a minimum wage now, but it's you guys know what it is now. It's still all right, but young players can get by, but not players with families and stuff too. So those things have to change a little.
Well, it's so funny because I talk as a teacher, right? And the big push or the big perk to being a public school teacher is you get the retirement, you get the insurance. And a lot of teachers that I know, good friends that are like, yeah, the pay isn't good, like the pay isn't what we want. However, we get insurance, our family is insured, and we have retirement. That alone makes this worth it.
Right.
That goes same for a lot of different backgrounds, not just professional athletes.
Exactly. Same thing in our industry as well too. Fortunate to do what we're doing as well too. But if you want some proper product on the field, these little things matter as well, especially for Division One.
So we kind of saw a replay earlier with this North Carolina team where Rodrigo da Costa ends up getting the goal. It's still the goal that sees North Carolina have the lead. He's been a guy who's been around forever. If you've gone against him, what is he like to try to defend?
Yeah, he's like a bulldog kind of thing. Like he takes care of the ball. He's very smart, always checking his shoulders, pressing you. He's very calm on the ball too. You can tell he came from a good system in NCFC Academy where they play out the back and they're not afraid to play good ball. So definitely, from my perspective, I'm a center back. Seeing him, a little bit higher pressing, you have to be a little cautious of certain balls that you're playing in because he likes to jump in and be aggressive in there too. And it's always good to have someone like that to kind of keep you on your toes, and you keep him guessing, it keeps me guessing, kind of thing.
This is something I've thought about. Whenever I make content for the USL show, I kind of think in two heads, right? Like two headspaces. One of them is I've been for the last few years obsessed with free kicks and free kick design because we've actually seen clubs invest in actual set piece coaches, which is like we talked about this before, but like Louisville City made a killing off of being one of the few teams that actually had a set piece coach. They were just getting more goals than other people from set pieces because they just spent the money, right? And the other thing is goalkeepers. I love goalkeeping. I love watching goalkeepers. You played in the middle of the new age of goalkeeping where the goalkeeper at times acts as a third or fourth center back and allows another center back to go higher or whatever. What is that like as a center back, knowing that you can pass to the goalkeeper and they're not just going to kick it as far as they possibly can? Was that an adjustment that you had to make as a player, or was it pretty seamless?
I guess that's a standard that came from in Richmond. You know, your foundation in certain clubs in certain areas start you off, and they love to play out the back. We have a lot of DC United goalkeepers. Joe Willis was with us from Nashville, so he was brave, and which gave me confidence. I love it. I think every center back loves it. Love a goalkeeper that even loves to play at the back, not even just kicking it along themselves too. Because even if a forward presses us, we're calm. He's calm. I know I have a third option who's almost always open in the game. No, you can't cherry pick. You can't stay offside. So the goalkeeper is almost always open. So it's a good plan B and a good last option for us too. But any goalkeeper that loves to play, we're a big fan of that too. And I guess I was more so looking for goalkeepers that could do that than goalkeepers who couldn't do that because of where I came from. And anyone that could do that, I was a big fan of.
Makes sense. So as we're getting into the final 10 minutes of this match, we've started to see North Carolina turn the screws a little bit more and really get more into this match. They got their goal and they haven't really seemed like they've been the better team. You mentioned that earlier. For you, what are you seeing out of Orange County that what should they do to try to get back into this match and at least get the leveler?
I'll have to see how the gameplay goes right now in a second, but definitely press a little more, press the initiative. They're putting on a good player right now for attacking. They're doing well keeping the ball. So I'm even in this moment right now so confident they're going to generate at least 2 good chances as well, just with the composure that they have. But NCFC is doing well pressing them. They're going to have to do the same thing vice versa and win this ball back and stay high and, take a chance, not just sit back, stay in a block. You're going to just have to stay behind on goal kicks and stay high as a whole back unit because everyone's going to be pressing. Maybe a lot more one-on-one matchups, but it's worth it. You're down 1-0. Don't really have much to lose at this point as well, too. So I think they are. It looks like they're pressed up pretty high, and it's a 1v1 matchup with the center back. So looks like everybody else is pretty high, too. So I think they should generate some more opportunities.
Well, Hugh, I know you got to roll pretty soon. We already mentioned again backyard footy, but again, let the people know where to find you. Where can they consume all the content? Like, where can people hit you up and say thanks for coming on?
Thank you, sir. Backyard Footy with 2 Y's on Instagram, Backyard Footy, Facebook, Twitter, on all platforms, TikTok as well too. But yeah, and we're Apple, Spotify, on all YouTube as well too. Follow a lot of documentaries on that as well, and just definitely stay tuned. A lot more podcasts weekly. I'm gonna keep that going weekly. More behind the scenes with Dana Life from players, and then TST's coming up too. So definitely stay tuned for a lot of behind the scenes actions. Preseason for Drip FC starts next weekend, so see a lot of behind the scenes, and I'll keep that going with that.
Wonderful. Hey, everybody, check it out. Thanks for hopping on, man. You were a blast.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keep in touch with me. Keep doing your thing. All right. I'll see you guys soon. Love what you're doing.
See ya.
Have a good one.
See ya. Always
That
a
was so
blast.
cool.
It's so cool. I mean, if people have not talked to Hugh Roberts, he is one of the great guys that this league has to offer. Check out all of his stuff. But I was so serious when I said that. I was so starstruck by him. I have seen the Inter Miami's come to Birmingham. I'd seen Atlanta United, and I had seen a lot of the big players that through the USL come through. Hugh has been the only player that I was just starstruck by. There's just something about the guy. He's just an absolute USL legend.
Yeah, I mean, it is so cool that we've had these tremendous players come through USL, just from when we've started covering the league as sorry, there was an Orange County moment there,
Yeah.
or as like we've just seen, like I've seen Tyler Adams of all people play at a high school stadium in Wilmington, North Carolina, and now he's playing for Bournemouth in the Premier League and could be a Europa League player next season. It speaks to the level of quality that USL has had through its system over the years, and it is just so damn cool to have these players not just part of the league, but they still want to be part of the league. They still want to be involved with all the players, with the system and everything, and it's just awesome.